our series, Free People, a study on Galatians. Last week our bottom line was Jesus wants us to be free people. Have you ever done something just to impress a person or a group of people? Anyone at all? If you've never seen that happen, all you need to do is look on YouTube. Of course, we all know that we've done it. But seriously, you can look on YouTube for fail videos, and you can see people doing some really crazy things to try to impress people. Doing a skateboard jump 50 feet up in the air and breaking their their leg in like 10 places. Things that are really crazy. I'm guilty of it as well. When I was in middle school at West Suburban Christian Academy during my 8th grade year, the cool guys in my class, of which I was never a part. So if you're not in the in-crowd at school, if you're not one of the popular kids, hey, I relate to you because that was me. But the cool kids in my class started wearing chains on their wallets. Have you guys ever seen that before? Not too many people wear those anymore. It was the 90s, so that was cool back then. I thought it was really cool, so much so that I decided to try to get a chain of my own on my wallet. Only my mom wouldn't buy me a chain for my wallet, so I had to make one myself with the only thing that I could find, which was, I kid you not, paper clips. Yeah, I made a paper clip wallet chain. And even worse, I know it for at least one, it was a long time ago, it's hard to remember, but I know at least one day I wore it to school. And of course I got absolutely hammered and made fun of for wearing my paperclip wallet chain to school. I'm still recovering today from the abuse I got from that, right? It was an epic fail on my part. Trying to fit in, trying to impress this group of guys. I was trying to join their group, and it blew up in my face. Trying to look good in front of other people is normal because, well, we all want to look good in front of others, right? None of us hope to do something embarrassing in front of others. We don't ever set out to show people the worst parts of us. No, we always want to put our best face forward. And there's a name for that. It's called managing your image. And here's the definition. Doing whatever you can to make sure the best parts of yourself are visible and your less likable parts, is that a nice way to put it? Your less likable parts are carefully hidden. As crazy as that sounds, we all get this. Everyone around us is thinking about managing their image in some way or another too. But in some ways, in middle and high school, it feels like at times, especially now, most of you are going back to school tomorrow. A couple of you guys actually started Monday, but most of you are going back to school tomorrow. It's going to feel like 5% academics, 5% managing your social life, and 90%. We have Pastor Jerry in the house, and he's not good at math, and I'm not good at math. I think that comes 5, 90. Does that come out to 100? Yeah. Yeah, okay. 5% academics, 5% social life, and 90% just try not to look like a fool in front of other people. You know, tomorrow, my first day at school, I'm just going to try to make sure that I don't trip in the hallway in front of everyone, right? You know, this is true because it's what you're doing. If you've ever asked your mom to drop you 2 blocks away from school in the morning because you don't want other people to see that your mom is driving a beat-up old minivan. Or it's that when the idea of leaving the house and going to school when you're having a bad hair day, girls, or guys, if you have a zit on your face, makes you want to crawl in a hole, not go to school. Yeah, it's that. It's why there are certain people we want to be seen with in class, walking to class with. You know, that group of people, I want people to see me walking with them. Or I want to see people eating at the popular group's table at lunch. I want to be at their table. I don't want to be at that table with those students. Or it's why when we are playing a sport and we look up in the stands and we see that one person that makes us a little nervous, or if you don't play sports, if you're performing in your band and you look out in the seats and there's that one person and it's a little nervous, we see like, oh, there she is, or there he is, oh, okay. And it's why there's one class with that one special person that you really want to do well in. I want to do well in that class. Since we're talking about how these relate to me tonight, I'll go back again to West Suburban when I was in middle school, when I was playing basketball for the Warriors. When I would look into the stands during my basketball game and see the girl that I had a crush on, Pam, in the stands, woo! I wanted to impress her, right? Okay, I gotta do something special here. Gotta make sure Pam's watching. Well, the problem was, I'm terrible at basketball, like no skill. And back in 8th grade, it was even worse. So basically what I'm thinking about, I want to impress her is like, I don't want to fall flat on my face in front of her. You guys get what I'm talking about? Anybody else get what I'm talking about here with this? Yeah, you want to impress that person, put out a good image. Now you guys get this. Now why do we do this? It's because we're constantly working to manage our image so that we look good in front of people. I have a little illustration here for you guys. We've got the slide. There it is. It's an applause meter. An applause meter. Heard of an applause meter before? Let's all do a polite golf clap. Oh yes, an applause meter. Yes. Applause meter. Good, boring, not bad, pretty good, fantastic, amazing. It's kind of like we all have one of these in our head, and when you guys go back to school tomorrow and you're walking through the hallway, you're going to probably have, a lot of you are going to have this applause in your head. And it's when you're in front of the people that you want to impress, and in your head you're going, okay, are they impressed by me or not? Is it a, yay, amazing, they're impressed, or all the way around the left side, is it, boring? Sound effects. That's boring. Sorry. So you're going through, okay, are they impressed by me or not impressed by me right now? That's what goes on in a lot of our minds in middle and high school. It's like a scoring system. Now this, by the way, isn't just a middle school or high school thing. This is a person thing. And I'll give you an example from my life. As some of you know, I am a soccer referee. Raise your hand if you knew that I ref soccer. Yeah, okay, a couple of you, all right. Well, now you all know. I ref soccer. A lot of you pastors have side gigs. That's my side gig. And so on a Thursday night in Frisco, where I live, you may find me reffing an adult league. And not just any adult league, but a lot of times I'll ref this really intense men's league soccer game. And it can get pretty heavy. Like I've seen guys throw punches at each other. Yeah, it's crazy, right, crazy. And so I've done this where when I'm around these intimidating guys, a lot of them are older than me, bigger than me. I'll try to make myself look tougher and try to make myself look, have kind of a confident look on my face, and look like I know what I'm doing as a ref and I know the rules, so that they're not screaming and yelling at me, "Ref! What are you doing? Where's the call, man?" Well, if I'm looking tough and confident, like I know the rules, hopefully they don't do this much. Sometimes that works, and sometimes it doesn't work as well. But I do this too. So this is something that adults do as well. Adults manage their image too. It's not just the middle school or high school thing. So I'm saying I'm guilty, I do this. And just because we all do that to different extents doesn't mean it isn't exhausting. Image management is a full-time job, people. And no matter how good you are at it, it always kind of feels like, it's out of reach. I can't quite get to the level I want to be with my image management. And usually at the end of the day, we feel tired. Why? Why do we feel tired a lot of times? If you're going to school tomorrow, you might feel this, why am I so exhausted? That, by the way, is why some of the people act like total weirdos when they're at home with their family after a long school day. Why? Because we've been containing our weirdness all day at school, and we're exhausted, so we just let loose with our family. And your parents go like, "Why are you acting like this?" "Because I'm exhausted, I'm holding it all in school all day." On top of being exhausting, the whole not looking dumb thing is frustrating because it never seems to work out the way that we think it will. All of us have that teacher, coach, friend, or maybe even a parent that no matter how good you do in your sports, no matter how good of grades you get, or what accomplishments you make, they just won't be proud of you the way that you think they should be. You can't do enough for saying it to change them. Never prove. We do feel like we're looking okay, and I think I had a pretty good day today. It never lasts as long as we think it will. One day we have it, and then the next day, gone. I'm in sound effects mood tonight, sorry. It's gone. We have our image managed, the next day it's a disaster. Which means we're starting all over again. Now maybe we get an A on that paper. Or maybe we get the game ball. Or maybe if you're in your school orchestra, you get first violin. Amy's in the room because she plays violin if you didn't know that. Maybe that's why I feel like maybe you get first violin. And man, that night when you go home, whew, it's really satisfying and rewarding. You guys know that feeling? That was good. We go to bed that night feeling like we are killing it at life. But then we wake up the next morning, guys. It starts all over again. You start wondering, well, what if my grades fail and I get kicked off the team? Or what if I don't make the right play? What if I mess up in my game? What then? What if second chair violin practices really hard and she becomes better than me? Man, see, everything turns real quick. I mean, I'm stressing myself out just talking about it. So why are we talking about this constant battle to manage how people see us? Because of humans. This is why we're talking about this. Because image management is killing us. Here's a sneak peek at where we're going. Very few things in life will threaten your freedom like image management. It's the opposite of freedom. Freedom is the ability to act without restriction. And when we are constantly working around the need for approval from others, we're not free. Our need for approval from others is controlling us. Our need to manage our image is making us a slave. Last week we talked about how Jesus wants us to be free people. But what about this? What do we do if the fight for approval keeps us from feeling anything but free? We started talking last week about the letter that Paul wrote to the church in Galatia. The letter of Galatians. To give you guys some background and context of where we're going in our scripture tonight in our study of the book of Galatians. Just a reminder, this is a letter that Paul wrote to these Christians. And Galatia was an ancient Roman city in modern-day Turkey, just so you know where it is, and some background and context of where this was writing. And this was written about 2,000 years ago. And Paul is writing to this group of Christians who he shared the gospel with. He told them about the love of Jesus. But then, other teachers followed up after Paul with the Christians in Galatia. And they said to them something, a very different message than Paul had shared with them. Paul's message was this: Jesus loves you, and Jesus saved you. You can be free from the penalty of your sin. Because Jesus died on the cross and rose from the dead, you have the opportunity to become in a right relationship with God the Father. And Paul left, and came these false teachers. Came up to these new Christians saying, no. Hang on a second. You didn't hear the full message. Because there are several Jewish commandments that if you want to really be a real Christian, if you want your salvation to take and be real, you need to follow these rules. Now, this understanding made Paul really upset. On Saturday, I went to my friends in Flower Mound. Their little boy named Liam, he was his 5th birthday. And Liam is a massive Lego fan. He had already gotten lots of Lego sets already. For his birthday, he actually already built one before I even got there. And it was the full-size police station. It was impressive. And when I saw it, I asked his father, Billy, my friend, hey, you helped him with this, right? He said, no. He built it all himself. I'm like, really? That is impressive, because he's younger than even the youngest age, recommended age of this. And I'm like, he built that whole thing himself. He's like, yep, the only thing I did was just watch, make sure it wasn't messing up. Like, he did it all himself. I'm like, wow, he's a master builder at age 5. That's pretty impressive. But when I went into the house, I noticed they had the new Lego set, the police station, sitting up on a shelf. And there's a good reason for that. Because Liam has a younger brother who's 2 years old named Pierce, who would have knocked over and destroyed all the hours and hours and hours that Liam worked on his Lego set. Now, when me and my brother were younger, we played with Legos all the time. It was my favorite toy of my entire childhood. We had an entire bin that we would make all kinds of fantastic creations. And when I would build things, if they got destroyed, it's a terrible feeling. Anybody else play with Legos as a kid? Am I the only one that played with Legos as a kid? Do you know when you guys would spend like an hour, really building this amazing tower, amazing creation, and then a sibling comes and knocks it down? That feeling? Yeah, that's kind of like what Paul was feeling here, and about what we're going to read tonight. Only Paul was more annoyed, because this was a much more important issue. This was involving where people were going to spend eternal destiny. Paul had poured his heart into these people. When these false teachers came in and started teaching things that were contrary and completely different from the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ, Paul took it personally. That's why he was super clear in his letter in order to set the record straight. So Paul opens the letter saying this. Galatians chapter 1, 6 and 7. I am astonished that you are so quickly deserting the one who called you to live in the grace of Christ and are turning to a different gospel, which is really no gospel at all. Those are some pretty direct words. And he goes on to say this, that evidently some people are throwing you into confusion and are trying to pervert the gospel of Christ. Whoa. Strong. It's coming across strong. And now look what Paul says a few verses later in verse 10. Obviously, I'm not trying to win the approval of people, but of God. If pleasing people were my goal, I would not be Christ's servant. So basically, what Paul is saying here is this, that I'm probably going to make you mad with what I'm about to say, but here's the thing. I'm not here for your approval. Wow. And that's really saying something, because again, when you look at the context and the background of this passage, we know that Paul had a lot of enemies at this time. The Roman government was one, but on the other side, you also had the Jewish religious leaders who were trying to kill him because they viewed him as a traitor to Judaism because he converted to Christianity. But the church in Galatia should have been different. I mean, he planted the church, and he had a loving relationship with these Christians. They were on his team. But Paul knew they had heard something different about what following Jesus meant. He was not okay with it. He knew he needed to do something. So he took a chance at rocking the boat, potentially even jeopardizing the relationship, the friendships they had with these Christians in Galatia. Things up. Why did he risk it? Because the message of Jesus was on the line. A message that says freedom from sin can happen without the burden of people thinking they have to do certain things or follow certain laws or have certain things done to earn their way to a right relationship with God. Paul's like, no, that's wrong. I got to say something. Paul had to make a decision. Did he care more about managing what people thought of him, or did he want people to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the real message of Jesus. A message about grace and forgiveness and freedom was being preached. Basically, it was this. A decision between working for the approval of people versus working for the approval of God. Which side is it? Well, Paul spoke those words at the very beginning of the letter because he wanted to set the stage for the rest of the letter. So let's go back to what he said. Let's reread where we are in verse 10. Obviously, I'm not trying to win the approval of people, but of God. If pleasing people were my goal, I would not be Christ's servant. See, Paul was more concerned with what people thought was right by God than by what people would say or think about him. And maybe you think that sounds sort of harsh, but he wasn't being a jerk. Going after the approval of God doesn't mean that you have permission to act in such a way that no one likes you. That wasn't what Paul was trying to do. See, going after the approval of God does not mean, catch this, losing the respect of others. What's this mean? It's basically saying, hey, I'm only out here to please God, so I don't care what the rest of you guys think. It's just me and God. Who cares about how your feelings are, what you think? No, that's not what Paul was trying to do. In fact, in the next verse, Paul addressed the church in Galatia as his brothers and sisters in Christ. So he clearly cared about them and how they felt. He loved them. Paul said what he said because he cared about the church and the people who made the church up, and not just about what they thought about him. Paul knew to only care about the approval of the men and women in Galatia was to make his own needs for approval more important than what the people needed. And what did the people in Galatia need? They needed the gospel. They needed the true story of Jesus, not what some false teachers were teaching them. So Paul told them the truth, even at the risk of their relationship that they may take it back. Paul was basically saying, there's a difference between caring about something and being controlled by it. You guys understand what that's saying? There's a difference between caring about something and being controlled by it. So you could say, I really care about this person. I don't want to upset them, but I need to tell them this. You ever heard the phrase, speaking the truth in love? You ever heard that? Or grace and truth? Have you guys ever heard that before? It's when somebody has a difficult conversation with you, and you know they love you, you know they care about you. But it's still a hard conversation to have. You guys ever heard about that before, or had that happen in your own life? Maybe a parent or a friend. It was a tough conversation, but you knew they meant it for your good. They want what was best for you. They were just speaking the truth, but it was in love. That's what this made. See, Paul understood this. He cared about the people who made up the church. And he cared about the influence he had in their lives. He cared about having influence with them, but he was not controlled by the need for their approval. So he wasn't sitting there going, I know I should tell them the truth here, but I don't want to upset them. Now, if that was the truth, it's like, I want to still be popular with them and be on a good standing with them. He's caring more about himself than what God wants him to do. But he didn't do that. And that's an important distinction. That small difference is what kept him from being controlled by whether or not the people in Galatia controlled him. Their approval of him controlled him. But that he didn't allow that. Because Paul knew that free people live for God, not for the approval of other people. Put more simply, free people live for him, God, not for them. That's our bottom line tonight. Free people live for him, not them. It even rhymes. So if you don't remember anything else tonight, remember this, our bottom line tonight. And when you get in your car, if your mom asks you, what'd you learn in church tonight? Here's what you tell them. If you don't remember anything else, remember this. Free people live for him, not them, not the approval of others. Go ahead and say that to your neighbor. See if they're sleeping, you can wake them up. Free people live for him, not them. Go ahead and say it. Free people live for him, not them. But that's not always so easy to do, is it? It's not always easy to care about what others think and not be pressured to be more concerned with their approval of you. So how do you know if you're being controlled by the approval of others? Well, as next steps, this is a practical way to apply this message to your life. How do you apply this tomorrow at your first day of school? How do you do this? Here's a little quiz for you. First quiz of the school year. Ready? Here we go. It's going to be easy. Don't worry. Just be honest with yourself. You don't have to answer all that. Let's bring our applause meter back. Let's do the polite club. All clap again for this polite club. All right, so in your head, you're minding about, I got that applause meter. I'm going to run around people that I want to impress. Okay? All right, question 1. If you're willing to do things when people are around you that you wouldn't do if you were by yourself, you may be controlled by the approval of others. That's question 1. 2, if what other people say to you or think about you, whether that's a coach, a teacher, or a group of friends, if that changes how you feel about yourself, you may be controlled by the approval of others. Question 3, if you feel like you're living different lives depending on the group that you are hanging out with, meaning one group at school of friends, you're one way. It feels like you're living a different life. And then with another group, you're living a completely different life from that one when you're with different people. And then when you're on your sports team, you're completely different with them. You're living a different life. And then with your own family, and again, totally, like, who are those people? Living a different life there. If you're doing that, you may be controlled by the approval of others. Our 4th and final question for our next step, our first part of the next step, our first step in applying this message. If there's a church version of you and a home version of you and a school version of you, you may be controlled by the approval of others. How'd you guys do on that quiz? You guys do okay? We talked about that last one, that there's different versions of you in different places where you are. We talked about this last week if you were here. We talked about it, but last week we talked about it as masks. You guys heard me talk about wearing masks with different groups of people. If you haven't heard this before, it's basically like, when I'm home with my parents, I wear the good kid mask. And then, when I'm at school tomorrow on my first day of school, I put on my smart kid mask. And then, when I'm with my friends on the sports team, I put on my jock mask. I'm the athlete. We're different masks with different groups of people. So why are we talking about the same thing 2 weeks in a row about wearing masks? Because this is such a key concept. I want you guys to understand. It's one of the core principles of FiveStone Students. Because this school year, even if you feel like you need to wear a mask with every other group you're with, maybe even with your own family, you have to pretend to put a mask on. We want you to know, as leaders, staff here at FiveStone Students, that when you come here to FiveStone, whether it's on a Sunday morning at groups or on a Wednesday night at worship, I want you to feel safe and accepted so that you can leave your mask at home. And you can come here to FiveStone and be honest about what you're going through and what you're struggling with. What sins you've committed in the past and what sins you're currently committing. Regardless of what you're going through, this is a no judgment zone here at FiveStone Students. We love you. Jesus loves you. And we accept you as you are. You don't have to clean yourself up or put your mask on before you come here. You can be real and honest with your D group leader every Wednesday night about what you're struggling with. They're a safe person to share with. No one's going to judge you. No one's going to laugh at you. You are accepted. We know that in a room this size, not everybody in here is probably even a Jesus follower. That's okay. You can still belong to FiveStone Students as one of our members here. You're part of the FiveStone Students family. We love you. We care about you. And guys, This is a message that teenagers across the United States today in 2019, heading into this new school year, are desperate to hear. That there is a place that will accept them and love them as they currently are. Guys, this is why we're doing Bring One Month. Not to set attendance records, no. Because we want people to encounter the living God. Students who have never heard the gospel before may come here on a Wednesday night because God used you to bring them here at the beginning of your school year. And they can find true acceptance and love, and best of all, can hear the gospel of Jesus and how they can determine where they spend their destiny, whether in heaven or in hell. And I know all of you, most of you know people and young people your age who don't know Jesus. You're not sure if they're Jesus. You don't know where they'll spend eternity. This is why we do Bring One Month. This is why on September 11th, why we're doing a massive color war at Kickoff 19. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's good for pictures and things like that. But at Kickoff 19, we're going to share the gospel. Just like last year, 13 students got saved at that event. We're going to do it again. Because God used you to bring that lost friend of yours here to FiveStone Students. They can meet Jesus for the first time. And so that one day, we're going to have a party with them forever in heaven. So when you come here to FiveStone Students, you can feel free and released and relaxed. And lay your mask out. Be real, accepted, and loved. Here's why this matters. You weren't made to be controlled by anything or anyone. Remember, Jesus wants us to be free people. And free people don't live with every action being controlled by how others see them or think about them. Here's what Paul was not saying in this passage. He wasn't saying, I'm seeking the approval of others because I really don't care what the rest of you think. No. That's not what he meant. And I think it's important for those of us who are Christians, especially today in our culture today, to think more about that. See, sometimes we as Christians can get obsessed with managing our image as super Christians, almost to the point where, even if we don't say it out loud, we may think in our head and act like we're better than others. And last week, if you were here, I shared and was really honest and vulnerable and saying, hey, when I was your age, that was me. I grew up thinking, and I was a good kid, and because I didn't do these things that the Bible said don't do, and I did things that the Bible says you should do, I thought that automatically meant my heart was very close to God. It wasn't, because it's not true. A Christian relationship with Jesus is not about following a set of rules. We don't always realize that that's not freedom either. That's still being controlled by our need to look a certain way. Now, before we wrap up, I want to get personal for a minute. Chances are there's at least one relationship in your life that you care way more about your image and about their approval of you. You should. A relationship where, if you were honest, they have more control over you and your emotions, and sadly, your view of yourself than you'd like to admit. That's true for me, and that's true for all of us. Chances are they don't need to have that influence on you. In fact, honestly, they probably don't even notice. You just care so much about what they think of you. You're so hungry for their approval. Maybe people are even noticing about you. Maybe you've had people you care about say something like this to you. Hey, do you realize that whenever you're around that person you're trying to impress, you talk like a completely different person. You act like someone we don't even know. The question is, if that's you, what do you do? That's when we go back to the Bible. Go back to what Paul's saying. A couple chapters later in his letter to the Galatians, Paul says this in Galatians chapter 6, verses 4 and 5. Pay careful attention to your own work, for then you will get the satisfaction of a job well done, and you won't need to compare yourself to anyone else. For we are each responsible for our own conduct. Boom! There's your answer. Paul kind of summarized it all right there. You're responsible for yourself. You worry about you. You don't want to be a background player in your own life. You don't want someone else's opinion of you to drive your decisions. The responsibility for you lies with you. I think if Paul would have said this, even though this is completely relevant today, even though it was written 2,000 years ago, if Paul had written this today or said this today to us in America, 21st century America, he may say it this way: hey, you do you. You do you. Not because he didn't care about what other people thought, but because I think he understood what we sometimes miss today. It's this: you don't need others to give you what you already have. You don't need their approval, because the God who created you already approves of you. Guys, get this. You don't need other people's approval. The God of the universe already approves of you right now, as you currently are. And God loves you. He's crazy about you. Free people live with this in mind: caring about the approval of God and not them. And when they do that, they feel a lot more free. They are free from the control of others' opinions. They are free from the burden of trying to measure up. They are free to rest in what God has done for them. And don't worry about trying to live up to any other standards. Before we dismiss the deers, I want you to imagine how different your life would be if you didn't feel the pressure to manage your image all the time or get the approval of others. What would it look like if you actually started living this way this week? And as if you believe what God has done for you is enough, and that no one can take away from that. How many hours would you get back? How much less stress would you have? How much more rest would you get if you lived like this? How much less fake would you be? And how much less worried would you be if you lived like that? Sounds nice, right? And that's what Paul was telling to the Christians in Galatia 2,000 years ago, and that's what Jesus wants you to hear today. Because as we learned last week, Jesus wants us to be free. And free people live for Him, not them. I'm going to invite our leaders to come to the front as we close in prayer. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this night. Thank you for these students. Many of them are going back to school tonight, but they decided to come out, even though it's the last night of summer vacation, they decided to come out anyway. And we know that each one of these students were here for a reason. We wanted them here to hear this message. And Lord, we pray that this message, that they actually apply it to their life, that it doesn't go in one ear and out the other, but that they remember the bottom line and the next steps of what we learned from the Apostle Paul's letter to the Galatians. And I pray, Lord, that throughout this week, whenever they're tempted to be worried about the approval of others, that you remind them what they heard tonight. And remember that free people, as Jesus followers, we live for Him, not them. Lord, I pray for our D groups leaders. I pray that you speak to them tonight, and I pray that the students who are here leave their masks in their seat. Just be real about what they're struggling with, knowing that this is a safe place to come as they are and to share and be open with what they're struggling with. Pray all these things in Jesus' name. All right, before we go to D groups, where's Amy? Amy? All right, she's ready to go. All right, we have a prize drawing, and so let's see. I'll reach for that. All right, so here's our Bring One prize drawing. We're going to be doing this for 3 more weeks. So bring your guests next week. Our prize drawing winner is going to be Avery Fisher. Avery, come out with your friend, yes, and you get the pick of which gift card you want. So come on up, come on up. Can we get a mic down, guys?
First week, you get the first pick of.
Yeah.
Yeah, Starbucks. Here we go. I'll read through them so you can see. There's Starbucks. There is Movie. Fandango. Okay.
These are a little gift cards. This is $25.
Panera. Are there any Panera fans out there? Like, I love them. They're mac and cheese. Oh, yeah. They're mac and cheese. But fun fact, I actually knew someone who helped make the recipe for Panera mac and cheese.
Nice.
That's cool. And then Panda.
Panda fans. Yes. But you're going to go with the... All right, we get a quick picture.
Area's claimed the Starbucks.
All right, guys, here we go. Quick picture. All right. Do it after we can. Like 10. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, give a round of applause.
Bring your guests. Bring one next week. We got 3 gift cards left. Bring your guests next week. Cool. All right, we are going to now transition to D groups. You are a grade 6 to 9 girl. You are either Amy, Olivia. That's it, yeah. If you're a grade 6 to 9 guy, you are with either Ben or myself. If you're a grade 10 to 12 girl, you are either with Donna or Emma. If you are a grade 10 to 12 guy, you are with this guy, Heath. All right, you guys are dismissed to D groups.
One of us could Wow.